Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From Cardinals headquarters, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
A new work week begins. That's right, in the NFL, the week begins on Wednesday, at least for the players, since they are off on Tuesdays. For the coaches, it just kind of all blends together. But this, on Wednesday, the official starts of Week 5, when the Cardinals put the focus on San Francisco. And, well, we'll still look back at Week 4 because still impressed by what we saw on one individual, MJ, and that is Josh Rosen.
Yeah, we know about the 24-hour rule, but you have guys in here on Tuesday, and they get the game plan. And if I'm the quarterback, I definitely want the game plan. And then as through the week goes on, you have more input. And then Saturday night, when the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback sit down, they figure out. And I do think the Cardinals will dive deeper into the playbook just based on what Rosen did last week, and that's really encouraging.
And, of course, he was able to do so much, and then you can kind of give him just a little bit more, but it's all of what he does best is what the coaches always stress. And, of course, Rosen, when he makes those decisions on Friday, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to make sure we run on Sundays, and, of course, you tweak it as you need to, either leading into the game or, of course, on game day. All right, on this Wednesday, let's take off and tell you what's ahead on the show, what the numbers don't show you about Josh Rosen's performance on Sunday, his first career start. Rosen is also the subject. He and Chad Williams of Cardinals Film Room will be joined by Kyle Odegard for the exclusive access inside. And, of course, your questions via social media, get those in. Hashtag CardsCover2, and that is using the number 2 to get involved in the show here on this Wednesday. And, of course, if we don't get it, we also do it on Friday as well. But before we do all into that, do a deep dive on Rosen's day on Sunday against the Seahawks, the news of the day. And according to head coach Steve Wilks, 4 players did not practice on Wednesday: Bené Benwickery, Larry Fitzgerald, Marcus Golden, and Corey Peters. None, though, real serious, MJ, and that's good news. And Wilks mentioned that all 4 should be available on Sunday. Of course, we know Fitzgerald's going to play more precautionary, but the Golden situation was interesting because he has been full participant, but he did play 34 snaps, I believe it was, on Sunday, which is 3 times as much as he had played the week prior. So just kind of easing him back into the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to be expected, a little tendonitis on the knee, and they want to be cautious with him, and we'll see if his snap count goes up. But, I was looking at the Colts. They play the Patriots tomorrow night in Foxborough, and they've already listed 7 guys out. They don't have to worry about inactives, and those players won't travel. But here, you get to this point in the season, usually because of the last couple of weeks, whether it's Olsen Pierre or Andre Smith, usually you're going to be out a game or 2, and here Andre Smith's going to regain his starting position at right tackle. So this is encouraging. They're not hit with the injury bug, and that's something you want to avoid because you got to get a little lucky on Sundays, but you got to stay healthy.
It just bumps and bruises, typical following a game day. But here is Coach Wilks talking more about Golden.
Benwickery, Fitzgerald, Golden, and Peters did not practice today. They're day-to-day. I expect all those guys to play on Sunday. Pretty good practice today, good tempo, good sense of urgency. Guys were flying around, they were into it. And with that, I'll take your questions.
Golden, just tender knee?
Just tender knee. Just wanted to give him a day. Again, bringing him back, you still just don't want to put a lot on him, So being able to give him that day today, I think is good. He'll be ready to go tomorrow.
And while we're on the subject of defense, something that Coach Wilks was asked about, and I went back because I don't think enough credit is being given to what Josh Bynes has done so far this season. And if you remember, he was signed off the street. Literally, he was available last training camp in 2017, and he has worked his way not only onto the team and being I don't want to say a core player, but someone who got a contract in the offseason, wants to be here. The team wants him around. But he was kind of just to be a piece, try to maybe be some depth behind Hassan Reddick and Damon Buchanan. But all of a sudden now, he's no longer a piece. He's an integral part of that defense in that linebackers room, and the fact that he's starting and he's playing a lot.
Well, I mean, you give Steve Keim credit. I mean, he was on the street. He was looking for a job, and he comes in here and, obviously you had Carlos Dansby and you had Dale Buchanan, but he provided depth. He played on special teams. What he's become is a 3-down linebacker, and I think his biggest improvement is coverage. And Pro Football Focus came out this week, and they gave him close to an 89 grade. Overall, as a linebacker in the National Football League, he's ranked 7th overall. And so, and I actually got a chance to talk to him today, and I said, is that the biggest improvement? He goes, I never really thought about that, but he goes, in this league, you want to be a 3-down linebacker. You don't want to come off the field. And that's been the scenario. So not only is he really good, and really this is between the years here, he makes the calls on defense, and he makes sure guys get lined up. And that's where Dale Buchanan initially struggled in week 1 against the Redskins. So they got a guy that can do that. And the fact that he's, can cover some guys down the field. Now, again, if he's got a running back or, maybe even a wide receiver, which shouldn't be the scenario, there's going to be times he's going to get beat because it's just – those guys are a lot faster. But the fact is that he's under contract for the next couple of years. Next year, I got to think they're going to go out and get another inside linebacker if they decide to move on from Dale Buchanan, and he'll be the guy next to him. And now he's been in this system for his second year. That can go a long way. The fact that he can call the defense and he's getting guys lined up, and then he has to do his job. So it's really a guy that really has learned the defense, and now he can help his teammates learn it too.
And what do we hear from Coach Wilkes? Trust. He trusts.
Very true.
Josh Bynes, and only Antoine Bethea has played more snaps defensively than Bynes, and Bynes has been on the field for every single snap the past 2 weeks. Here is Coach Wilkes praising his linebacker.
When you look at Josh, the first thing that comes out, he's just smart. Josh gets everybody aligned, and that's important within our defense, seeing certain adjustments and checks and being able to get either the front or the secondary in the right position, that's what he brings, and that's the reason why he's out there.
The other player in the Cardinals locker room here on this Wednesday that kind of got a lot of attention was kicker Phil Dawson. Obviously, he stood in front of his locker on Sunday after the ball game, after he missed the kick, and answered all the questions. And the questions came again on Wednesday as far as how he moves forward after missing that 45-yard potential game-winning kick against the Seahawks. But the reason when he came in, everyone kind of motioned over towards his locker stalls because both Wilkes and Rosen mentioned that they offered encouragement to Dawson. And it's one thing when you have the head coach do it. That's normal, although sometimes when the head coach summons you, that's not good. But now you have a 21-year-old rookie in Josh Rosen offering encouragement to a 21-year-old NFL veteran. Dawson was asked about those both.
We spoke, yes.
Did you get nervous when a head coach calls you?
I've been living on eggshells for 21 years, so yeah, that's anytime you get summoned to the head coach's office, that's makes you think twice, especially coming off a game like I had. But we had a nice conversation. We're on the same page, and obviously looking for improvement this week.
You also mentioned that Josh said something to you. Your rookie quarterback came up, said something to you.
I think that speaks a lot about his leadership. Here's a rookie making his first start, and he comes up to the second oldest guy in the league, and has some words of encouragement. So I was impressed by that, and I think this whole locker room can benefit from leadership like that.
Says a lot when you have a rookie going to the veteran in that locker room, say, look, we still got you. We got your back.
Who's the only older player? It's not Brady. It's got to be Adam Vinatieri.
That's what I was thinking. That was the name that popped into my head. I can't think of anyone else that's done it longer.
Now, I appreciate him standing in front of his locker. He is a professional, and if he had the game winner, we're having a different conversation. True. Now, I think the Cardinals will give him another week. Obviously, it's a week-to-week proposition. You're talking about a guy that played better in the second half last year, but he missed 8 field goals. He missed 4 from inside the 40-yard line. So if this team's going to be in close games, they need the kicker to come through, and it's not about the issue with the long snapper and the holder. All that's been – he's got the same guys over the last 2 years, and Aaron Brewer and Andy Lee. So I don't want any excuses. I know that he didn't go out there to try to miss them, and I'm sure it's eating him up right now because you want to get back on the field as soon as possible, and you're hoping that he can get an early kick, get the confidence going. But that was a makeable kick, and they can't afford to, lose games based on a special teams play. And
as he did on Sunday, Dawson offered no excuses whatsoever for the miss. In fact, he tried to keep things light.
I went around today and I told him, you want to be encouraged? And, of course, everyone was like, yeah, so you could be me this week. And that put a smile on everybody's face. So, I'm trying to deal with it with some humor, and obviously I'm suffering each and every moment, just want to get back out on the field and try to get going. But, that's this job. That's the way this league works, and you just got to come to work each and every day.
You know, Kent Summers asked that question from the Arizona Republic about, you know, when the head coach calls you, I'm sure he has every single player's phone number, and, hey, I want to talk to you. You're like, okay, it's a Monday. Who are they bringing in on Tuesday?
Do you want my playbook too, or is this just a conversation?
Just a conversation for now.
Yeah.
They brought in 2 players on Tuesday, and both of those guys were signed to the practice squad. So, I mean, the Cardinals are doing their due diligence. But, again, I think it's a week-to-week proposition, and this is me thinking out loud.
And this week, of course, the Cardinals make their trip to San Francisco after back-to-back home games. They'll play the 49ers at Levi Stadium. 1:25 is the kickoff. That means an 8:30 a.m. pregame on the Arizona Cardinals radio network. And, of course, all your game day coverage can be found on azcardinals.com/GameCentral. Josh Rosen had his first career NFL start. Now he'll have his first career NFL road start against the 49ers. And we talked about it throughout on Monday as well. And on paper, a good team, perhaps, after getting your feet wet, now all of a sudden Rosen goes on the road to play the 49ers. And I know the game's not played on paper. I get all that. But on paper, the Cardinals are a much, much better team.
Yeah, and we're going to get into some of the details there where the Cardinals can exploit some matchups. But, you know, he's played in Levi Stadium. It was the Foster Farm Bowl game.
2015.
He played against Nebraska. He's also played twice against Stanford in his collegiate career. I want to say it's like 7 to 14 miles away. So he's played in the Bay Area. He's played in that stadium. So I know it's an NFL game, a lot different personnel and everything else, but the fact that he's been there and done it, that can go a long way.
Rosen always making sure he keeps things positive. He was peppered with questions about the wide receiver drops and how do you move forward. Well, it's something that Coach Wilkes has noticed from Rosen from the start on making sure that everyone, even his teammates, they all keep things positive.
It shows a lot to his maturity. You know, the kind of person he is. We know what kind of player he is, but just the kind of person. And you need that in your quarterback, you know, not to get frustrated because, again, you know, he's counting on those guys, and those guys are going to bounce back this week. You know, one of the encouraging things, I talked to Phil on Monday, you know, after the game, of course, we sat down and talked, and, you know, he said Josh came up to him after the game, you know, and here's an older guy, veteran guy, and he's getting encouraged by a rookie quarterback. So it's just speak volumes for what Josh can do for this team, not only on the field but off.
Look, Rosen had every opportunity, if he wanted to be discouraged, be disappointed by what happened on Sunday, yet he always maintained a smile, and we discussed it on Cardinal Talk immediately afterwards, and we can talk about it here right now. As far as the incompletions that he did suffer, I went back and looked at every one of them. Darren Urban of azcardinals.com broke it down earlier in the week as far as what Rosen's numbers potentially could have been.
20 for 27 and 2 more touchdowns?
261 and 2 touchdowns if those drops had been catches. Now, of course, there were some catches that maybe players had no business making. The Larry Fitzgerald diving one, the Chad Williams touchdown catch, you know, where he gets his hands underneath, which we'll break down in just a little bit. But there were 15 total incompletions, 12 officially, because there were 3 that were ruled no play due to penalty. But of those 12 incompletions, there were 5 drops, 2 which I termed smart decisions. There was the low snap that we received from Mason Cole, and he threw that ball away.
And he was able to pick it up, get out of the pocket, and throw it away.
And then the miscommunication, and we still don't know whose fault it was, but under center, Rosen takes the snap, David Johnson goes right, and Rosen turns left, and he ends up throwing that ball away because it was a busted play, and you don't compound it by trying to force something, and that's an incompletion.
Well, I think David Johnson came out and said that was his fault.
Yeah, and so now you're looking at so that's 7 incompletions, and then there was the touchdown that wasn't a touchdown overturned. So there's 8 right there that could have gone either way. So
you're referring to the Chad Williams 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
Yeah, he landed on the pylon,
yeah.
And it was real close. Initially ruled a touchdown, but overruled. But now you're looking at 4 incompletions that he just missed. You know, one way or the other. Credit to the defense. That's, to me, is phenomenal. That, you know, at least that's how I look at it. 4 true incompletions if you really break it down and dissect it.
If I go according to my Niagara Falls math, that would be like 72.5% if you go 20 for 27. Don't quote me on it.
That's pretty specific.
But I think that would be it. I mean, you're talking about 27 passes in completing 20, and we're adding 2 more touchdowns. I mean, that's a big difference. I mean, you never want to leave plays on the field.
And he had the highest grade of any of the rookie quarterbacks to make his first career start, and was the third highest rated quarterback overall. And this is after a loss, MJ. We're talking about a 3-point ball game in which the Cardinals, should have won, and yet here we are 3 days later still praising the young kid on what he was able to do.
Oh, listen, if they can check this box, and Steve Wilkes was asked about it today, what is it like to have a rookie on a rookie contract? If you look at the Rams, you look at the Seahawks when Russell Wilson, before he got his extension, look at the Philadelphia Eagles and Carson Wentz. And Cardinals have a ton of cap space. They could carry some money over from this year and then the next year. But the fact is, that's where you got to bring in more talent, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's wide receivers, whether it's tight ends. And that's where you're going to start to see the fruits of the labor of him being on a rookie deal, because, he's got 12 games to go here, but he's definitely passed the eye test, and the future looks bright. I know that people are disappointed, and rightfully so, being 0-4. But this organization has been chasing that franchise quarterback. Obviously, Denny Green came here, and Matt Leinart, he wasn't the guy. And then you had a couple journeymen that came here and played really well. Kurt Warner took him to the Super Bowl, and then Carson Palmer, his first 3 years, 10-6, 11-5 and 13-3, and he was in that MVP conversation until week 17. So they really haven't had that young guy. They've tried.
Yes.
They've tried. But here you look at it and you go, this guy's only going to get better, and that's going to help everything out. And he's willing to stay in the pocket and make the throws. He's accurate. He throws a really good deep ball. You're going to see a couple of replays here in the show. Where, matter of fact, you see right now the Chad Williams throw. Okay, that was when Earl Thomas got hurt after the fact, but there's only one guy that could have caught that football, and that's Chad Williams. You got to give him credit for getting his hands underneath the football in the end zone. And then Steve Wilkes has talked about this with the Ricky Seals-Jones plays. You're talking about dropping dimes. Whether there was two guys in one area, it was on the Cardinals side. So anyways, we'll get into that. But for the most part, though, you could see the upside in Josh Rosen when it comes to recognizing defense and placing the ball exactly where the receiver is going to be, in this case, the tight end.
It's all stems from his confidence on throwing that ball into pinpoint locations to where the receiver can come up with that catch. Rosen discussing that confidence that he has and the presence that he has within the pocket.
I don't really think it is a feeling. I think you just react. I always say Monday through Saturdays for thinking and Sundays for reacting. I mean, you just, not really much is going on in my head back there other than just how am I going to get this ball out of my hand as quick as I can. I'm a very confident person. I mean, even if I have no reason to, I'll find a way to fool myself into going out there with full confidence that we're going to win every single game we play. Every time I step on the field, I expect to throw a touchdown or hand off a touchdown or lead the team in the end zone in some way. And in my head, if I don't, it's a surprise and something's wrong and we got to fix it so that we do next time. Growing up in youth sports, playing tennis and all that, you kind of have to, you're by yourself out there, so you always just got to be confident. And, I mean, even if you're not, you at least have to kind of play the part and try to keep pushing until something good happens, then you start to gain it and keep going. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of who I am. I'm not even football, but anything. I'm very confident in what I do. Even if I'm not, I'll act like I am.
And that confidence, everyone feeds off of that, and it's certainly something that you need to have as a quarterback in that position. And Coach Wilkes was asked again what impressed him the most about that performance, and he brought up, as you did, the two passes to Ricky Seals-Jones that were windows that very few quarterbacks, let alone a rookie quarterback making his first NFL start, can make, because you've got defenders, you've got the sideline, you've got the atmosphere, you got the time and location as far as where we are in a ball game. But those two throws, the first one on the sideline near the Seahawks sideline, remember there were two players in that area.
Yep.
Jermaine Gresham was over there as well, so there might have been some miscommunication, but to be able to read the defense, stand in that pocket, and then fire the ball to the right side and making sure one of those guys gets it and not the defense, that's just something that you just don't see from someone that has been thrust into this in week 4, where you're trying to maybe have him be that guy later on in the season, or maybe not at all this season. but just his ability to get that ball to Seals-Jones first on the Seahawks sidelines was impressive.
Yeah, and again, I thought the Cardinals' offense had a pulse. I know people have looked at maybe the lack of execution and sometimes the creativity or lack of on offense, but he looked a lot different. Now, let's be honest, nothing against Sam Bradford, but they had the similar personnel out there.
True.
Obviously, Gresham wasn't available early on in the season, but it was really the same personnel, and they look like a completely different offense. And that, to me, speaks volumes of a rookie quarterback making his first start, whether it's home or on the road. And again, there's a lot of things to build on here with Josh Rosen and this entire offense.
Seals-Jones had 2 catches for 52 yards, and that other second catch was over on the Cardinals sideline, and it looked like Seals-Jones got hurt just a little bit, but he seemed to be okay. But you're driving in a tie ball game with 5 minutes left to go, and you just put it right over the defender's heads towards the sideline, making sure Seals-Jones gets 2 feet in bounds. Now all of a sudden you've got not only the weapons with a Christian Kirk and a Chad Williams, but perhaps Seals-Jones, and I'll even throw in Jermaine Gresham, that perhaps with Rosen at quarterback, you can look more towards that tight end position.
Oh, there's no doubt. And you know how I feel about Ricky Seals-Jones. He's still a work in progress. He's got to become a better blocker. But let's be honest, the way the receivers have been hit and miss, maybe inconsistent, he's a target. And we know he can catch the ball. I think he's a big target in the red zone. He's got the size. It's a work in progress with him. But I thought he'd be the offensive breakout player of the year. I could have gave it to David Johnson, but we know what he did in 2016 with those 20 touchdowns, 16 rushing and 4 receiving. And Gresham will be the first to tell you. You talk to him.
Yes.
He wants to block, and they need a better blocking out of him, and including the interior line, because that's going to give Josh Rosen the ability and the time to throw the football down the field.
It's not only Rosen's ability to throw into tight windows, but his ability to stay in the moments, as head coach Steve Wilkes described earlier today.
I guess just being in the moment. You know, one example was clock was running down. We were about to get a delay of a game. I called timeout, and after that series, he was coming over to the sideline. He said, "Coach, I got it. I'm looking at the play clock. You know, I trust me, I got it." So just again, in that moment, just that confidence to say, you know what, let him go play. He's in control. Hey, I love it. I love the confidence. I love, you know, that he's in control. So I'm all for it.
You know, the interesting thing here is now he's been here for off-season workouts, obviously in training camp, and he only played in a couple preseason games. But, okay, so the speaker goes off in your helmet with 15 seconds left on the play clock. So he's getting the call, and then he's got to make sure he has the right personnel, and usually you'll see the quarterback stick out of the huddle if they're making substitution changes. And then he's got to go to the line of scrimmage and ID the Mike linebacker. And then if he decides to call an audible, because he has a couple plays he can check out of, and the fact that he's able to see the play clock, he's good. And so now that Coach Wilkes knows that, he's not going to waste a timeout or feel like we got to slow this guy down, because quarterbacks want to be in rhythm. They want to go at their pace, and that is encouraging to hear. With all that stuff going on in his head between the ears, he was able to grasp it, saying, next time I can handle it.
A learning moment perhaps for the head coach to learn about what his rookie quarterback can do, but he said let him go play. Perhaps now, if you're in that same situation as you were in on Friday, milking that clock down, 2 minutes to go, 3rd and 6, maybe on 2nd down, you let the rookie go play and see if he can't do something, as opposed to just handing the ball off to David Johnson.
Well, if you watch the Monday night game between the Broncos and the Chiefs, the play clock actually went to 0.
That's true.
And Patrick Mahomes, he's got a lot going on too, because they got different personnel groupings. They run a lot of motion. They run the jet sweep, and it went down to 0. And the league said that it was still the right call. But I don't know if he was paying attention to the play clock. And here, Josh Rosen said, yes, I was aware of what we were on the play clock.
Yeah, Rosen is aware of a lot of different things, and it's not easy to do, regardless if you're a rookie or a veteran in the NFL. His teammates, though, certainly appreciate it. And when you talk to Chad Williams about Josh Rosen, well, he raves about his quarterback.
Being in the huddle with Josh, you don't even know he's a rookie. He's real poised. He's a gamer, man. His mentality is win. He's the type of guy, he demands the huddle, and he's a really confident player. So when he comes in the huddle and he looks you in the eyes and just tell you to play, he got so much confidence. He make you feel like okay, I'm going to take this same confidence to the line when we run this play. So that's the very positive thing, being in the huddle with Josh.
And this isn't the first time he's made comments about Josh. I want to say it was either training camp or preseason game where he was interviewed maybe by Paul Galfisi, and he called him a baller. And he said, and again, Chad Williams was here with all the rookies because he was nursing an injury, and if you're nursing an injury, you got to get rehab here. So he was here with the rookies along with Christian Kirk and Trent Sherfield and any other rookie that was a wide receiver that was part of the 90-man roster. So as much as we know about his relationship with Christian Kirk, dates back to 2014. They were at a football camp. They went on recruiting trips. He tried to convince him to go to UCLA. And then we've told the story, and not to be redundant, but Christian Kirk lives in Scottsdale, and he could have went home after practice every day, but he actually roomed at the team hotel with Josh, and Josh told us today they live in the same building. So you could see, but I think Chad Williams is, if Kirk's 1, I think Chad Williams is 1A just because he's been around him so long, including when all the veterans were off for vacation before training camp.
And we're not disregarding Larry Fitzgerald. We're just looking ahead towards not when 11's no longer here.
We're just looking at guys that we can count on Larry on
future,
game day.
yes.
Yeah, but we need other receivers to step up because that's how you're going to spread the ball around, and that's going to open things up for David Johnson in the running game.
By the way, that was Chad Williams on Cards OT, which you can catch after every Cardinals home game on Fox Sports Arizona. And speaking of Chad Williams, it was Chad Williams and Josh Rosen hooking up for that touchdown play. And let's set the situation here. It was fourth quarter, 9:07 on the clock. The Cardinals trailing 17-10, and it's 2nd and 13 from the Seattle 22. Let Dave Pasch and Ron Wolfley take you the rest of the way.
Chase Edmonds, the deep back, 2nd and 13 on the 22. Rosen with a play fake. Rosen setting up, looking. Still looking, now fires left side, low pass in the end zone, but it is caught, and it's a touchdown by Chad Williams. First NFL touchdown pass by the Rosen one, and the Cardinals are within a point.
No, he didn't. A little play action in the corner route being run by Chad Williams, and he went down and dug it out. Took the spade, broke out the shovel, and caught that ball.
The fifth and final play that covered 80 yards in 2:39, and only one player was going to get that football.
Did you see him padding the ball, going through his progressions, waiting for him to get it open? And I'm glad that Chad Williams finally got that first touchdown. Now, Rosen told us today that he left it at his locker, okay, or on a stool, whatever it is, and he wants to know if there's a way they can cut the ball in half so Chad can get it because that was his first touchdown. I love Dave's Pasch. I think T-shirts should be out there with that. What do you say, the
Rosen one?
Rosen one. I mean, Dave Pasch obviously is very witty during the game and everything else, but interesting to see that they want to split the ball, and that's only fair. Usually the quarterback would want his first touchdown, and the receiver would want his first touchdown.
Let's go in depth on that play as we go inside the Arizona Cardinals film room with Kyle Odegard of EasyCardinals.com joining us here on Cards Cover 2. And you had an opportunity. I love how you do this. It's either the day after or a couple of days after, and we certainly enjoy it here on the show. But you had a chance to talk to both of those players about this play specifically because it was a big one, not only in the game, but for them personally as well.
Yeah, like you guys are saying, first touchdown reception for Chad Williams, first touchdown pass for Josh Rosen. And it's interesting that he said today he's talking about cutting it in half because when I talked to him, he said, Josh Rosen said, that's my ball. I'm keeping it. He's not getting it from me. Basically, finders keepers because Chad Williams dropped it. But going back into the play, I think you look at it, it's interesting because the Cardinals basically just sent out Larry Fitzgerald and Chad Williams on that play. They did a crossing route. It didn't exactly work out, but they were kind of supposed to meet in the middle and try to confuse the defense and then go to the corner pylons, Chad Williams to the left corner and Larry Fitzgerald to the right. And Josh Rosen said my first read the entire time was Larry Fitzgerald. And I think we could tell that he looked at Larry Fitzgerald for quite a bit during that play. He held the ball, but the Seahawks dropped 8 guys into coverage and only rushed 3, while the Cardinals kept a bunch of guys in to stop
Because only
the
had
rush.
2 receivers going out for passes.
Yeah, so the Cardinals had a bunch of blockers, and the Seahawks had a bunch of guys in coverage, which is why Josh Rosen could hold the ball that long. And he did a good job of not panicking, because I think a lot of young guys might have had this internal clock and just said, okay, nothing's there, I'm going to get rid of it and go on to the next play. But Josh Rosen realized that no pressure was coming. Jermaine Gresham did a really good job on this play. He was one-on-one against Frank Clark, who's a very good pass rusher, and Jermaine Gresham's a tight end who usually doesn't get that matchup, but he pushed Frank Clark past Josh Rosen, gave him time, which allowed Chad Williams to get behind Earl Thomas and into the corner of the end zone for the touchdown.
I believe Rosen told you about the protection he received. Quote, the offensive line holds up for about 5 hours, which, when you're keeping the clock
look
in your
at
head.
it. I mean, he's got a clean pocket, and he's
Yeah.
smart enough to set up in a, kind of rise himself into the pocket or step up in the pocket. And it's like the Tom Brady rules. You pinch the outside, you seal the edge, and then you step up in the pocket and you make the right throw, and he did that.
And it also was a good example, as you detailed on azcardinals.com/film room, on this was the progression that you want your young quarterback to make. Fitzgerald's your first option, not there, got covered. So you work your progression, you see Chad Williams breaking free.
Yeah, and I think by looking at Larry Fitzgerald, I think that got Earl Thomas's attention, and he felt like I didn't talk to Earl about this, obviously, but it seemed like
Why
Earl.
not? Sorry.
He was busy, but I think Earl Thomas was watching Fitz and maybe ready to break on that pass, and then that gave Chad Williams the avenue to get behind Earl Thomas. And Chad Williams said, once I got close to him, I saw he was still flat-footed, maybe waiting to break forward, and that gave Chad the ability to get around him, get to the corner of the end zone, and catch the touchdown, which could have been easier. Josh Rosen said, if I threw that ball a little bit further, Chad Williams doesn't have to go down and catch it like that. Earl doesn't fall over him. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So it was a little bit of a short throw, but it obviously still worked out where Chad made a nice catch.
Look at this video we have right here. It's almost in the quarterback's eyes, and you could just see the protection. I didn't realize, because I'm like, he's got a lot of time back there. He was padding the ball, waiting for the receiver to make the route. And you telling me they dropped 8, and that's tougher to do. You'd rather have him rush 4 or 5, where he's got to scramble a little bit and then throw on the run.
And Larry Fitzgerald said right after the game, he said, we were surprised by their coverage, which probably means they didn't think they were going to drop 8 guys like that. And just a tremendous job by Josh Rosen to realize that he does have time, and to stay patient. And because that Chad Williams route took a long time to develop and get all the way across the field.
This is fascinating right here.
Yeah, and that's a really cool angle. And he made the throw and was able to wait, and then he saw Chad Williams flash open, got it to him, and both of those guys are going to remember that play for the rest of their lives.
For those watching or listening on the podcast, just go to azcardinals.com/film room for more information. Kyle Odegard does a great job inside the Arizona Cardinals film room. But that play was set up, as you mentioned in the article, because of the success the Cardinals were able to have running the football as well. And I don't know if it was I'd have to look back, a full play action or play fake, but there was the fake to the running back, and that helps as well to get the defense thinking, maybe they're going to run it again. We're getting close to the goal line, and here comes another running play.
That's the point Josh Rosen brought up. He said it's hard for those guys to wait for the run and then realize the run isn't coming and then try to turn it into a pass rush move, because it's kind of a different momentum where you're stopping quicker thinking it's a run, and then you try to get going again. And obviously when the Cardinals had 2 guys on one and a lot of on the right side of the line, a lot of those were able to do a good job of keeping them away. And then Jermaine Gresham, I think, was the key guy, because he was one-on-one on the other side. He did a really good job against Frank Clark. I think if one person could have gotten Rosen on that play, it was Frank Clark, and Gresham kept him clean, and it turned into a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals where I'm sure a lot of wide receivers that have played with Larry Fitzgerald, because he's on the field. Now, we know that he's dealing with a hamstring injury and maybe has some others. But the fact is, that's going to open up for other guys.
Yeah, he's always going to draw attention from the defense.
And I don't want to call him a decoy, because we know he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And when he catches the ball at home and touches it, the crowd goes bonkers, and it kind of brings energy in the stadium. That's fascinating, because now it's going to open up for other guys and again, I don't know if they ran play action in the first 3 games, and I'm not being flippant here. I just think because Bradford was was obviously looking at the rush. You're supposed to feel the rush, and he wasn't trusting himself to run outside the pocket. But here with Rosen, it's almost a given you're going to see play action, and he sells it really good because when he turns his back to the defense, he hides the ball.
Right.
And you don't know if he's going to go to the right side or left side, so play action in this offense can go a long way to extending plays.
And like Craig was saying, on that drive, I think that was the drive where David Johnson had the really nice run.
Yes.
So it was something where the runs were piling up and Seattle was expecting the run.
Yep.
Even on 2nd and 13, you think that's usually a passing situation, but Seattle clearly had to think about the run because it was working so successfully.
And on that touchdown, as we've been mentioning, that's when Earl Thomas got hurt. And twice post-game with Josh Rosen, 2 incidences that he brought up before the media was able to. One was missing Christian Kirk in the end zone, which I thought, normally in that situation, a quarterback maybe needs to be reminded, but he brought it up himself before the media had a chance. And then he brought up the fact, as you said, that ball was, if I had thrown a better ball, not only would Chad been the only one to get it, but maybe Earl Thomas doesn't get hurt. What's the last player to apologize, so to speak, for getting another player hurt? I mean, it's not his fault, and it wasn't like that, but the presence of mind and the ability to say, if I had done it just a little bit better, maybe the Seahawks don't lose their best safety.
Yeah, I think he's got great awareness in football and just kind of in life like that, where he realizes the repercussions of certain things, and he knew throw it further. Earl Thomas obviously has a lot of respect throughout the NFL for as good of a player he is.
How many players went over there and tapped him and he was on the card? How many players were obviously praying for him?
And Josh Rosen was so accurate and so good throughout the entire game that this was one of his poorer throws, actually, and Chad Williams made a nice play to catch it, but there was enough space where it turned into a touchdown. But you can understand from Rosen's perspective, hey, if I just laid that out there a little bit more, he catches it while he's running to the sideline, and we don't have to deal with the unfortunate injury.
Now, when you went to approach him, was he excited about talking about the play?
Yeah, he was good. I just asked him if he wanted to do it. I've broken him down with Carson Palmer and Drew Stanton, and getting the quarterbacks is so interesting because they have to deal with so much. And going to a rookie, I wasn't sure if he had the complexity of a guy like Carson Palmer who'd been in the league for so long. But you talk to Josh Rosen for a couple minutes, and it's just easy to tell how quickly things are coming to him mentally, and which is such a hard thing to do as a young guy. I think he's done a really good job figuring out defenses. And when we talked to him when he first got here, he admitted that all of these exotic looks that defenses have given him, those were tough in the offseason. Already we've seen the progress, and it's turning into results.
And regardless of what Rosen might have told the media on Wednesday about that football and trying to cut it in half, I love what he told you. Quote, "That's my ball. He let it go. Finders keepers." And if you see the replay, Williams catches it, drops the ball, runs in the stands, and Rosen picks up the football and says, "Yep, that's mine. I'm sorry."
See, there's the awareness again.
And as we talked on Cardinal Talk on Sunday and then again on the Red Sea Report on Tuesday, because I asked Roy Green, in that situation, who gets the football? Roy's like, no, the quarterback gets the football, because as a wide receiver, you want the quarterback to keep looking your direction, so you'll always defer on those things to the quarterback.
I guess that's the subplot of this now. We can see within the next week or two.
He's going to got a couple more touchdowns, Chad Williams. Now,
but your first one is always special.
Listen,
well, I talked to Rosen in the preseason because he threw the one to Christian Kirk. He said, "I don't care about this ball. It's preseason." And then he's like, "Oh, what if it happens in the regular season with Christian Kirk?" He didn't think about Chad Williams' first one too. So it's always been something in his mind.
And it's not the same story if you had two balls, because obviously the quarterback's going to get the ball that was in the game, and Chad Williams will have to tell people, "I caught this. This is my first touchdown." But in the back of his head's going, "No, this is not the same ball.
No,
but they gave me another ball, so this is my first NFL touchdown."
We'll have to see. We'll see how it turns out.
All right, it still looks good sitting on your mantle or your desk or wherever.
All right, quickly here. I saw you today talking to Josh Bynes. We were talking about him a little bit earlier. We know that it was a time signing. He's become a 3-down linebacker, and he's earned a contract extension, and he's getting better. I think his most improvement, Kyle, is coverage.
Mm-hmm.
We know he has to call the plays, get guys lined up. What was your conversation like with Josh Bynes today?
Yeah, it was very much about what he's done to vault himself into this 3-down role, where obviously going into the season he was looked at as a base package type linebacker, but Hassan Reddick and Dayon Buchanan were expected to be the nickel linebackers, so he would maybe play 25-30% of the snaps. Instead, it's basically been 100%. And like Steve Wilkes talked about, like Josh Bynes talked about, it's such a mental game at linebacker, at the Mike linebacker, and Josh Bynes is just so good mentally that he's talked about, I've never been the fastest guy and I've never been the strongest guy, but it's always clicked mentally. He puts in a lot of work, and I think he's naturally intelligent, and that stuff is important on this defense to help other guys get lined up and to know what he's going to do. So I think the fact that everything clicks for him right away is so important at that position, and that's the big reason why he's playing full-time.
Only 28 years old. According to Pro Football Focus, he's the 7th best linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah.
And some teams have 3 linebackers, some had 4. You're talking times 32 teams. That's pretty impressive.
Great signing, and they got a 3-year contract with him in the offseason, so hopefully he will stick at that spot for a while.
And they'll be working on that for today, for tomorrow?
Yeah, Thursday feature.
Absolutely. So azcardinals.com for more on the Cardinals linebacker Josh Bynes. Kyle, we certainly enjoy it. We appreciate it. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Inside the Arizona
Thanks,
Cardinals Film Room with Kyle Odegard. Again, more on azcardinals.com/film room. As we move on from week 4, look ahead to week 5 at San Francisco. It's time to go inside the numbers.
Inside the Numbers, presented by La Mesa RV, where you can experience life. For the second straight week, the Cardinals' opponent connected on a go-ahead field goal in the final minutes, and the Red Sea left State Farm Stadium with a sour taste in their mouth. The glass appears half full, though, after Josh Rosen's first start as an NFL quarterback. His numbers weren't gaudy, but he showed plenty of the playmaking ability every Cards fan had hoped he would. Rosen finished the game completing 15 of 27 passes for 180 yards and a touchdown. According to Pro Football Focus, Rosen's completion percentage rises from 56% to 72% after adjusting for dropped passes and throwaways. The 22-yard scoring strike to Chad Williams was not only Rosen's first NFL touchdown pass, it was Williams' first NFL touchdown reception. Pass protection was solid, with only 1 sack allowed. On Rosen's touchdown pass to Williams, the line gave their rookie quarterback nearly 5 seconds in a clean pocket to find his open receiver. Punter Andy Lee had another stellar afternoon, averaging more than 50 yards per kick. Lee's 51-yard average on the season is second in the NFL behind Philadelphia's Cameron Johnson. While holding Russell Wilson to just over 170 yards passing, the defense struggled to stop Seattle's rushing attack. The Seahawks averaged 5 yards per carry, while amassing 171 on the ground. The Cards' D made life difficult, however, for the visitors on 3rd down, allowing 0 conversions on 10 attempts. Trey Boston led all tacklers for both teams with 11. Chandler Jones and Hassan Reddick each added a sack. Jones has 8.5 sacks in 6 career games against Seattle, with at least 1 sack in each of those contests. The Cards have not beaten their division rival on home turf since 2012, Wilson's first NFL game.
Cardinals, though, do own a 6-game winning streak against this week's opponent, San Francisco. As we welcome you back here, Cards Cover 2, Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 p.m. here from the Cardinals facility in Tempe. Miss your show? You can always download it via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or tune in. All right, now time for this Bird Gang to sound off here on this Wednesday. Your questions via social media. We'll start with Twitter and well, something we kind of just already discussed, but this user wants to know who gets the touchdown ball between Chad Williams and Josh Rosen. I think both are going to get a football, but who gets the true football? My money's on Josh.
Yeah, I think the quarterback, but again, it's his first receiving touchdown, so they'll figure it out. But I do think the quarterback tips the scale there.
User on Twitter wants to know, as we talk defense, don't you think this defense was drafted to play a 3-4 and should go back to that?
No. You want to talk about, yeah, but that's hindsight. I mean, it's easy to say that. They'll adapt to personnel. It's not going to happen during the season, but they'll get personnel that fits the 4-3. It's an adjustment, but again, last year the Cardinals played a 5-man front. They had 3 defensive linemen, 2 on the edges between Marcus Golden until he got hurt, and then you throw in Chandler Jones. So this is what it is, and there's a reason why they hired Steve Wilkes to run a 4-3 system and hired Al Holcomb, who's running the defense. So I don't mean to be trite here, but you're just going to have to get used to it. It's obviously a work in progress when it comes to personnel versus scheme.
Yeah, that's what Wilkes and Holcomb are familiar with, is that 4-3. More defense. This user on Instagram wants to know about Hassan Reddick. Will they ever go back to a permanent edge rusher instead of being a linebacker?
Well, I got to think, besides Josh Bynes, and we've talked about him at length about being a 3-down linebacker, meaning he doesn't come off the field passing or rushing downs. He calls the defense and gets everyone lined up. It'd be interesting to see because Reddick did get a sack. Buchanan obviously got more playing time. It looks like the odd man out is going to be Gerald Hodges, but we'll have to wait and see what happens in the game. But if you can bring in Hassan Reddick as a situational pass rusher, passing downs. Now, obviously you don't know, but 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, those are passing downs. They're trying to find the sticks. I think they can find a role for him. And Buchanan, he's much better against the run. He's struggled in coverage this year. He's been targeted, and of course he got that PI call in the end zone. I don't think he turned around for the ball. So I think there's roles for both of those guys. Now it's a matter of down and distance and how they want to utilize their skill set.
Looking at the offense, the user on Instagram wants to know, what are your thoughts on Mason Cole stepping in for A.Q. Shipley?
Well, I think he's done a good job. I will give the rookie the benefit of the doubt. Now, he needs to get some help from the left guard and Mike Upati and Justin Pugh, the right guard, but he's making the calls. I don't think they had any miscommunication. He had the one low snap, and Rosen did a nice job covering there. So I think the future's bright. I think this entire draft class, the 4 picks, Rosen, you throw in Kirk, Mason Cole, and Chase Edmonds, they're gonna be part of the future. Those are the guys we're going to be talking about next year. They'll become household names.
You want to know how you know an offensive lineman is successful? When they're not being talked about. And Mason Cole is not being talked about.
No, and again, if you just look at the numbers, they got to get more production from the guards. I think the pass protection's been better, and I think that's because of Rosen. He's going through his progressions. He's not holding on to the ball unless he has 5 seconds, and he has the ability to get outside the pocket and extend plays. And I think the tackles have done better. I think DJ Humphries, coming off the injury, maybe a little bit of a slow start. He's done a good job on the blind side, and John Wetzel. And again, they're going to go back to Andre Smith, and I think Wetzel will get an opportunity to be an extra blocker to protect not only Rosen, but get the running game going to the right side.
Last question via Instagram. What will the Cards do to get the offense going, and do you think we will continue to see wide receiver drops?
No, I hope not. I mean, these guys, they're professionals. The Cardinals brought in receivers over the last 3 weeks, and they still feel like the top 5 receivers on the roster are better than what they have on the street right now, and that kind of makes sense. Plus, you got to come in here and learn all 3 wide receiver spots. Now, J.J. Nelson, he's become a better route runner, and he ran a great route, but he's got to catch the football. You cannot give up a 52-yard, and I think he would have scored in that play if not got down to the 1-yard line. So he's the only deep threat on the roster, and you got to keep defenses honest. If they want to stack the box, we're going to throw it over your head, and he has the ability to run past a defensive back, if not a safety.
Appreciate the Bird Gang sounding off. If we did not get to your question, well, keep them coming, and we'll try to do it again on Friday. Again, that's using the hashtag CardsCover2. Hashtag CardsCover2, using the number 2. We get involved at the end of every show here on Cards Cover 2, and we'll do it again on Friday. It is a football Friday when we will join you as we'll dive deeper into that Cardinals and 49ers matchup in Week 5. Perhaps this is the week, this is the month as we now hit October that the Cardinals get that first W of 2018. Special thanks behind the scenes to Tim Delaney, Jim Omohundro, Devin Henry, Jeremy Schnell, plus Grant Greeley, Jonathan Hayward, Brandon Natus, Jesse Aranda, and Jackson Sipes. Appreciate everyone's involvement in the show. For my partner, Mike Jurecki, I'm Craig Grialou. We'll talk to you again Friday here on Cards Cover 2.